You know what they say about Tuesdays? They're like Mondays, but with the added insult of pretending yesterday was supposed to be restful. Jake Martinez learned this the hard way while watching his food truck literally smoke itself to death in downtown Portland. "Come on, Betsy," he muttered, patting the side of his mobile kitchen like it was a dying horse. "Not today. Please, not today." But Betsy, his 12-year-old food truck with more personality disorders than a reality TV show, had apparently decided today was the perfect day to have a complete nervous breakdown. Black smoke poured from her engine while Jake stood there in his grease-stained apron, wondering if this was what rock bottom looked like. His phone buzzed. The health inspector. Perfect. "Martinez, your permit renewal is overdue by 3 weeks. One more violation and we're shutting you down permanently." Jake hung up without saying goodbye because, honestly, what was the point? His permit was overdue because he couldn't afford the renewal fee. He couldn't afford the renewal fee because Betsy kept breaking down. And Betsy kept breaking down because he couldn't afford to fix her properly. It was like a very depressing circle of life, except nobody was singing about it. The phone buzzed again. This time it was Linda, his ex-wife, calling about alimony payments he definitely didn't have. "Jake, I need that money by Friday or my lawyer's getting involved again." "Linda, I'm literally watching my livelihood die in front of me right now. Can we maybe postpone the financial threats until after I figure out how to pay rent? That's not my problem anymore, remember? You made sure of that." She hung up. Jake stared at his phone, then at his smoking truck, then at the gray Portland sky that looked like it was about to dump rain on his already spectacular day. This was fine. Everything was fine. That's when he noticed the kid. The boy was maybe 8 years old, standing about 10 feet away, just watching. Which would have been normal enough, except for 3 things. First, he was wearing what looked like pajamas made of some kind of shimmery material that definitely wasn't from Target. Second, he had this weird bluish tint to his skin that Jake initially blamed on the weird lighting from the overcast sky. And third, he was staring at Jake's food with the kind of desperate hunger that made Jake's chest do that annoying thing where it grew 3 sizes and made him care about people. "Hey kid," Jake called out, "you okay?" The boy said something in a language that sounded like someone was trying to tune a radio while gargling mouthwash. Not English, definitely not Spanish, and probably not any Earth language Jake had ever heard. "You hungry?" Jake opened his truck and pulled out his last burger. It was supposed to be his own lunch, but the kid looked like he hadn't eaten in days. "Here." The boy's eyes went wide. He took the burger with both hands like it was made of solid gold, examined it carefully, then took a bite. His expression went from cautious to amazed to what Jake could only describe as religiously ecstatic. "Good stuff, right? Secret's in the seasoning. And the fact that I actually care about what I'm cooking, unlike most of these downtown chains." The kid devoured the entire burger in about 30 seconds, then looked at Jake with an expression of pure gratitude. He said something else in his weird language, bowed deeply, and then walked away. Jake watched him go, feeling slightly better about his day. Sure, his truck was dead, his business was failing, and his ex-wife was threatening legal action, but at least he'd fed a hungry kid. That had to count for something in the cosmic balance sheet, right? The boy disappeared around the corner, and Jake turned back to his smoking truck. Time to call a tow truck and start figuring out how to rebuild his life from scratch. Again. And again. If only he'd known that the weird kid in pajamas was about to make his problem significantly more complicated. 3 days later, Jake was hiding in his still-broken food truck, watching the world end on his phone screen. Well, maybe not ending exactly. But when massive alien ships appear over every major city on Earth simultaneously, it's pretty reasonable to assume the apocalypse is running ahead of schedule. "This is Anderson Cooper reporting from what used to be a normal Tuesday morning," the reporter was saying, his usually perfect hair slightly disheveled as he stood in front of a ship that looked like someone had crossed a cathedral with a military base and then made it float. Military officials are still trying to establish communication with the vessels, which appeared approximately 6 hours ago over New York, London, Tokyo, and 17 other major cities worldwide. Jake was parked in an alley behind Powell's Books, partly because he was waiting for a tow truck, and partly because he figured if aliens were going to vaporize Portland, he might as well go out somewhere that smelled like old books instead of garbage. His phone kept buzzing with news alerts. Breaking. Alien vessels demand to speak with Earth's leader. Pentagon scrambles to establish contact. World leaders gathering for emergency session. You know, typical Tuesday stuff. That's when his phone rang with a call from a number he didn't recognize. Jake almost didn't answer, but figured why not? If it was a telemarketer, at least he could take out some of his cosmic anxiety on someone who deserved it. Jake Martinez? Yeah, who's this? This is Agent Rebecca Torres with the Department of Homeland Security. We need you to come with us immediately. Jake looked around his empty food truck, then at the alien mothership visible through his windshield. I'm sorry, what? The beings in the ships are asking for you specifically, Mr. Martinez. They're calling you Earth's Supreme Nutritional Officer. I'm sorry. They're calling me what now? They want to negotiate Earth's surrender with you personally. A motorcade is en route to your location. Jake's brain did that thing where it just stopped working entirely. Like when you try to divide by zero, except stupider. There's been a mistake, he said slowly. I run a food truck. A broken food truck. I'm not Earth's anything officer. Sir, with respect, that's what we told them. They insisted. They have footage of you conducting what they're calling a sacred feeding ritual with their crown prince. They're what? Mr. Martinez, 3 days ago, did you give food to a child with unusual skin coloration? Jake's memory flashed back to the weird kid in pajamas. The bluish skin. The strange language. The way he'd acted like Jake's day-old burger was the most amazing thing he'd ever tasted. Oh, Jake said quietly. Oh, no. Oh, yes, Mr. Martinez. You fed the crown prince of the Zephyrian Empire. They're the galaxy's most powerful military force, and they're convinced you're either Earth's supreme leader or our most dangerous spy. But I'm not. Yeah. Try explaining that to the 7-foot-tall warriors who are currently parked over our cities with enough firepower to turn Earth into a parking lot. Jake looked out his windshield again. The alien ship hung in the sky like a very ominous reminder that the universe had a sense of humor, and that sense of humor was apparently focused entirely on making his life as complicated as possible. So what happens now? He asked. Now you get to save the world, Mr. Martinez. No pressure. Jake hung up and sat in his broken food truck, watching the alien mothership and wondering if this was what a nervous breakdown felt like. He'd fed a hungry kid. That was literally all he'd done. One simple act of basic human decency. And now he was apparently Earth's only hope for avoiding galactic conquest. His phone buzzed with another news alert. Alien representatives demand immediate meeting with Earth's Supreme Nutritional Officer. Jake put his head in his hands and started laughing. Because really, what else was there to do? The inside of an alien spaceship, Jake discovered, looked exactly like what would happen if someone took a luxury hotel lobby and decided it needed more intimidating architecture and fewer plants. Everything was sleek, metallic, and designed to make visitors feel very small and very aware that they were completely out of their depth. Which Jake absolutely was. The Supreme Nutritional Officer of Earth will present himself to Commander Vex Tar, announced his escort, a being that looked like someone had taken a professional wrestler and stretched him to 7 feet tall while painting him blue. Look, I keep trying to tell you people, Jake said as they walked down a corridor that seemed to go on forever. I'm not a supreme anything. I make burgers. That's literally my job description. The escort consulted a device that looked like a tablet crossed with a Christmas tree. The translation matrix indicates you are being modest about your position. This is noted as a positive leadership trait. No, I'm being accurate about my complete lack of qualifications for this job. Your humility is admirable, Supreme Officer. Jake was starting to understand why Earth's diplomats had decided to let him handle this one. The aliens had apparently decided that whatever Jake said was exactly the opposite of what he meant, which made communication roughly as effective as trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. They entered what was obviously a command center, complete with view screens showing Earth from orbit and enough blinking lights to power a small city. Standing in the center was Commander Vextar, who looked like someone had asked an AI to design the perfect military officer and then added an extra foot of height and some very impressive facial scarring. Supreme Nutritional Officer Martinez, Vextar said, his voice coming through a translator that made him sound like James Earl Jones with a head cold. You have honored our prince with the sacred feeding ritual. We are here to discuss terms for your planet's integration into our empire. Right about that, Jake said, trying to channel every customer service skill he'd ever learned. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not actually. The prince speaks constantly of the sacred meat circles you provided, Vextar continued. He describes them as the most profound culinary experience of his young life. Clearly, your species has achieved enlightenment through nutritional mastery. The translator made a sound like a computer sneezing. Sacred meat circles became holy circular flesh offerings, then blessed round protein vessels, then gave up entirely and just started making beeping sounds. Those were hamburgers, Jake said slowly. Just regular hamburgers. Hamburgers, Vextar repeated reverently. Yes, the prince mentioned this sacred name. Tell me, Supreme Officer, what manner of ham is used in these burgers? Our xenobiologists are eager to study this earth creature. It's not actually ham. It's beef. From cows. And they're really not that special. The translator apparently decided that not that special meant incredibly sacred and mysterious, because Vextar's expression became even more respectful. Your modesty about your achievements is noted, Supreme Officer. We understand that Earth's nutritional wisdom runs deep. This is why we wish to form an alliance rather than simply annexing your world. An alliance? Jake felt a tiny spark of hope. That sounds better than annexation. Indeed, we propose that Earth become a protectorate of the Zephyrian Empire. In exchange for your nutritional guidance and regular supplies of these hamburgers, we will defend your world from all threats. Jake's brain tried to process this. They wanted to make Earth a protectorate in exchange for hamburgers. This was either the best deal in galactic history or the most ridiculous misunderstanding ever recorded. So, he said carefully, you're not planning to conquer us? Conquer? Vextar looked genuinely confused. Supreme Officer, we are warriors, not barbarians. One does not conquer a species capable of creating such profound nutritional experiences. One learns from them. That's when a smaller figure burst into the command center. It was the kid from 3 days ago, still wearing his shimmery pajamas. But now Jake could see he was definitely not human. His skin had a blue tint, his eyes were a little too large, and he had what looked like gills behind his ears. Supreme Officer, the prince exclaimed, running over to Jake. You're here. Can you make more of the sacred meat circles? Please? The food synthesizers can't replicate them properly. Jake looked at the prince, then at Commander Vextar, then at the view screen showing Earth hanging in space like a very fragile blue marble. Sure, kid, he said. I can make you a hamburger. And just like that, Jake accidentally agreed to represent Earth in formal negotiations with the galaxy's most powerful military force. The translator made happy beeping sounds, and Jake realized he was in way over his head. Jake Martinez had never been accused of being the sharpest tool in the shed, but he wasn't completely stupid either. Standing in an alien command center, surrounded by 7-foot-tall warriors who thought he was Earth's supreme nutritional officer, he came to a very important realization. He was absolutely screwed unless he started playing along. Commander Vextar, he said, trying to sound like someone who definitely knew what he was doing. Before we discuss terms, I should explain something about Earth's civilization. We are eager to learn, Supreme Officer. Right. Well, the thing is, our entire society is based on what you might call advanced nutritional diplomacy. Jake was making this up as he went along, but the translator seemed to be eating it up. When I fed your prince, I was following our most sacred protocol for greeting honored visitors. Vextar leaned forward with interest. Please elaborate on this protocol. Well, it's complex, Jake said, because saying things were complex was always a good way to buy time. On Earth, we believe that sharing food is the highest form of respect. My mobile kitchen isn't just a vehicle, it's actually a diplomatic embassy. A mobile embassy, Vextar repeated, making notes on his tablet Christmas tree device. Fascinating. So your species has achieved perfect integration of nutrition and diplomacy. Exactly. We don't just cook food, we create opportunities for cultural exchange and mutual understanding. Jake was getting into this now. Every meal is a chance to build bridges between different peoples. The prince tugged on Jake's sleeve. Can you make more sacred meat circles now? Please. Of course, Your Highness. But first, let me explain the significance of what you experienced. Jake turned back to Vextar. The hamburger isn't just food. It's a complete philosophical statement about Earth's approach to civilization. How so? Jake's brain went into overdrive. Well, consider the construction. Multiple layers, each representing different aspects of existence. The bun provides foundation and structure. The meat represents strength and sustenance. The vegetables symbolize growth and renewal. And the condiments? Jake paused dramatically. The condiments represent the complexity of choice and free will. Vextar was frantically taking notes. And the preparation ritual? Ah, that's where the real artistry comes in. The cooking process requires patience, timing, and intuition. You can't just follow a recipe. You have to understand the deeper meaning of what you're creating. This was complete nonsense, of course. Jake's burger-making process mostly involved slapping meat on a grill and hoping he didn't burn it. But the aliens were hanging on every word like he was revealing the secrets of the universe. This explains much, Vextar said. Our food synthesizers can replicate the molecular structure of your hamburger, but they lack the philosophical framework necessary for true understanding. Exactly. That's why they don't taste right. You can't synthesize wisdom, Commander. The prince was practically bouncing with excitement. So can you teach me? Can you show me how to make the sacred meat circles? Jake grinned. This was actually kind of fun. I'd be honored to, Your Highness. But first, we need to establish proper protocols between our civilizations. What do you propose? Vextar asked. Well, obviously, Earth needs to remain independent. We can't share our nutritional wisdom properly if we're under imperial control. But we're definitely interested in cultural exchange. A partnership between equals? That's the Earth way, Commander. We believe the best relationships are built on mutual respect and shared meals. Vextar consulted with several other officers in their beeping language, then turned back to Jake. The Empire accepts your proposal, Supreme Officer. Earth will remain independent, and we will establish formal diplomatic relations. In exchange, you will serve as our cultural liaison and provide guidance on nutritional philosophy. Jake tried not to look too surprised that this was actually working. That sounds perfect. And I'll be happy to teach your prince the proper way to prepare hamburgers. This is acceptable. We will establish a permanent diplomatic mission here to facilitate ongoing cultural exchange. Great. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. As Jake shook hands with the 7-foot-tall alien warrior, he couldn't help but think that this was either the greatest con job in human history or the luckiest accident ever. Either way, he was apparently Earth's first alien ambassador. And it all started with a kid who was hungry for a hamburger. Jake thought he was getting pretty good at this whole fake-it-till-you-make-it approach to intergalactic diplomacy, but right up until Commander Vextar informed him that the Emperor himself was coming to meet Earth's legendary Supreme Nutritional Officer. The Emperor? Jake tried not to let his voice crack. As in, the Emperor of the entire Zephyrian Empire? Indeed. Emperor Kethran has ruled for 3 centuries and conquered 47 star systems. He is particular about protocol. Jake was standing in what the aliens had designated as his diplomatic kitchen, which was basically his food truck that they'd somehow transported onto their ship and hooked up to alien power sources. It was surreal watching his beat-up mobile kitchen humming along with alien technology. "How particular are we talking?" Jake asked, firing up his grill. "He has executed ambassadors for minor breaches of etiquette. However, he is also deeply curious about Earth's nutritional philosophy. The prince has told him remarkable stories about your sacred meat circles." "Right, no pressure then." Jake started pulling ingredients from his cooler, trying to figure out how to impress a 300-year-old galactic emperor with day-old hot dogs and some questionable mustard. This was either going to be the performance of his lifetime or a very short, very final cooking show. The emperor arrived with an entourage that made Vex Tar look like a mall security guard. Kethran was tall even by Zephyrian standards, and with elaborate armor that looked like it was carved from a single piece of black metal and a presence that made Jake's knees want to buckle. "So," the emperor said, his voice making the translator sound like it was trying to process an earthquake, "you are the one who has achieved perfect nutritional enlightenment." Jake took a deep breath and committed to the bit. "Your Imperial Majesty, I am honored by your visit. I've prepared something special for this occasion." He placed a hot dog on a bun and added relish, mustard, and onions with the kind of careful precision usually reserved for defusing bombs. "Behold," Jake said, presenting the hot dog like it was the crown jewels, the earthly sacred cylinder of compressed meat wisdom. The emperor examined the hot dog with the intensity of an art critic studying a Picasso. "And what wisdom does this cylinder contain?" Jake's brain went into full improvisation mode. "Well, Your Majesty, the cylindrical shape represents the eternal cycle of existence. The compression of multiple meat sources into a single form symbolizes unity and diversity, and the addition of fermented vegetables." He gestured to the relish, "represents the transformation that comes through patience and time." "Fascinating. And the yellow substance?" "Ah, that's mustard. The mustard represents the sharpness of true wisdom, the way authentic knowledge can be both bold and subtle." Jake was pretty sure he was having an out-of-body experience at this point. Many beings cannot appreciate the complexity of mustard, but those who do understand its deeper meaning achieve a higher level of consciousness. The emperor took a careful bite. His expression went through several changes, none of which Jake could read, before settling on what might have been profound contemplation. "This is complex," the emperor said slowly. "The flavors interact in ways our synthesizers cannot replicate. There are layers within layers. That's the beauty of authentic Earth cuisine, Your Majesty. It's not just about the food, it's about the intention behind it. Every ingredient is chosen with purpose. Every preparation step is a meditation on the nature of nourishment itself." "And you believe this approach to nutrition has shaped your species' development?" Jake nodded seriously. "Absolutely. We believe that how a civilization feeds itself reflects its soul. Violence in the kitchen leads to violence in society. But when you approach food with respect, creativity, and love," he gestured broadly, "you create a culture based on cooperation and mutual understanding." The emperor finished his hot dog and stood in silence for a long moment. Jake held his breath, wondering if he'd just talked his way into an execution or pulled off the greatest bluff in human history. "Remarkable," the emperor finally said. "Your species has achieved something we have not. You have turned the most basic necessity of life into an art form, a philosophy, a path to enlightenment. We try, Your Majesty. This is why you cannot be conquered. A species that can find profound meaning in the preparation of food, that can turn nutrition into diplomacy." The emperor shook his head in what might have been admiration. "You are too evolved for subjugation, too unpredictable for control." Jake tried to look wise and mysterious instead of completely terrified. "Commander Vex Tar," the emperor announced, "Earth will be our ally, not our subject. We have much to learn from their nutritional philosophy." And just like that, Jake Martinez, owner of one broken food truck and a rapidly growing collection of cosmic lies, had convinced the galaxy's most powerful empire that humanity was too enlightened to conquer. He was either the greatest diplomat in human history or the luckiest liar who ever lived. Probably both. 6 months later, Jake Martinez stood in his food truck, which was now officially designated as Earth's primary intergalactic diplomatic embassy, wondering how his life had become so beautifully, absurdly complicated. "Order up," he called out, sliding a tray of tacos toward a group of crystalline beings who looked like someone had crossed diamonds with praying mantises. Remember, the cilantro is considered a controlled substance in most systems, so savor it responsibly. The crystal beings made sounds like wind chimes in a hurricane, which his new translation device informed him meant we understand the sacred nature of this green herb and will treat it with appropriate reverence. Jake had learned not to question these things anymore. His embassy was parked in the same spot where Betsy had broken down 6 months ago, except now it was surrounded by a small city of alien temporary structures. Earth's first permanent alien diplomatic quarter looked like someone had mixed a Renaissance fair with a science fiction convention and then added food trucks. Business was booming. Turns out, when you're the only human in the galaxy who can make authentic Earth cuisine that aliens believe contains mystical properties, you can pretty much name your price. Jake was now officially Earth's richest food truck owner, which admittedly wasn't a very competitive category. Jake. Commander Vex Tar approached the truck, followed by Prince Zephyr, who was now 12 and completely obsessed with learning every aspect of nutritional diplomacy. The Andromedean delegation has arrived for the cultural exchange. Cool. What do they eat? Unknown. They communicate through color changes in their skin and apparently photosynthesize most of their nutrients. So, salads? We recommend extreme caution. The last diplomat who misunderstood their dietary requirements was turned into what they called a learning sculpture. Jake shrugged. I'll make them a nice garden salad with the works. Worst case scenario, they'll think I'm making some kind of vegetative art project. This was his life now, making cosmic diplomatic decisions based on whether aliens would prefer ranch or vinaigrette dressing. His phone buzzed. It was Linda, his ex-wife, calling for the 3rd time this week. "Hi, Linda," he answered. "Assembling the salad. Let me guess, you want to discuss getting back together?" Jake, be reasonable. You're Earth's official alien ambassador now. We could make this work. Linda, 6 months ago you were threatening to sue me for alimony money I didn't have. Now you want to reconcile because I'm famous? That's not the only reason. What's the other reason? Well, you're also really rich now. Jake laughed, adding cherry tomatoes to the salad. I'll pass. I'm seeing someone anyway. This was technically true. He'd been on 3 dates with Rebecca Torres, the Homeland Security agent who'd first contacted him about the aliens. Turns out she had a great sense of humor about accidentally stumbling into galactic diplomacy, and she was one of the few people on Earth who understood what his life was actually like now. You're seeing someone? Linda sounded genuinely shocked. Who? Mount? Someone who liked me when I was just a guy with a broken food truck instead of waiting until I became Earth's most famous ambassador. He hung up before she could respond. Some things never changed, even when your job description included preventing interstellar wars through creative sandwich preparation. Prince Zephyr bounded over to the service window. Jake. Jake, the Emperor wants to commission you to cater his daughter's wedding ceremony. It's going to be the biggest diplomatic event in the galaxy. What's the bride species eat? Energy. Pure energy. Jake considered this. I'll make soup. Everyone likes soup. Even energy beings probably appreciate a good broth. This is why you're the greatest nutritional philosopher in known space, the prince said admiringly. Jake looked around at his bizarre new life. His embassy was serving lunch to beings from 17 different star systems. Earth was now considered a protected cultural treasure by the galaxy's most powerful military force. He was personally responsible for maintaining peaceful relations between humanity and dozens of alien civilizations. And it all started because he'd given a hamburger to a hungry kid. He thought about the Jake from 6 months ago, standing next to his broken truck, wondering if he'd hit rock bottom. That Jake never could have imagined this Jake, who was now seasoning interdimensional salads while discussing trade agreements with sentient crystals. Jake? Prince Sci-Fi was looking at him curiously. Are you performing a wisdom meditation? Something like that, kid. Something like that. Jake Martinez, Supreme Nutritional Officer of Earth and the galaxy's most accidental diplomat, got back to work. He had a universe to feed, one meal at a time. And honestly, he was starting to think he might actually be good at this job, even if he was still making it up as he went along.